Let's take a closer look at a specified program currently used in many of our schools to target students with deficits in phonics. Read Naturally Gate. Take a minute to look at the instruction, the curriculum, the environment, and the data evaluation. Then partner up in groups of 2 to 3 and each take a moment to share what you noticed about the intervention and how it intensifies from the supplemental level to the intensive level. Pause the presentation for this group activity. The literacy intervention protocols that have been developed for specific reading programs like Read Naturally Gate target specific foundational skills and typically require training prior to implementation. You will also notice that the instruction column recommends that the instructor follow the scope and sequence and lesson plans provided by the program. This section further describes the skills or instructional components typically used within each lesson. Furthermore, the prescribed environment, days per week, minutes per day, group size, and so on, for the supplemental or intensive support have been defined by following the program's guidelines required for implementation fidelity. If the prescribed environment cannot be followed due to schedules or limited resources, another literacy intervention protocol should be selected for your school or group of students. You will also notice that the last column defines the data evaluation required at each level. At both levels, the same diagnostic assessments and progress monitoring tools are used. The main difference is the frequency of progress monitoring. Students receiving Tier 2 support should be progress monitored every other week. However, students at the Tier 3 level must be progress monitored every week, unless otherwise notified by the school psychologist and the PST problem-solving team. Now, let's look at the protocol for our district's MTSS literacy intervention resources that are available online. The Literacy Protocol Committee developed intervention protocols for teachers to follow that choose to use our MTSS literacy intervention resources. Many of these resources have been available online through our district's website or other resources such as Florida Center for Reading Research or Intervention Central. The purpose of this protocol is to provide more specific guidance regarding skill progression, ensure that best instructional practices are being followed when a specific reading program cannot be implemented due to limitations of resources, trained staff, or factors related to the environment. So, the MTSS committee worked to organize the folders and subfolders within the MTSS literacy intervention resources to align with the progression of skills and literacy. They also took time to find and even review each activity, game, or resources within each folder to ensure that it was of high quality and could be used in conjunction with the instructional routines. The protocol scope and sequence, instructional routines, and supporting resources ensure that students will receive high-quality instruction that is replicable, easily accessible, and sustainable over time. To ensure that the actual instruction could be replicated by each teacher using the MTSS literacy intervention protocols, the committee located or developed instructional routines to add to each folder. These instructional routines can be found within each folder or subfolder. They provide explicit instruction for teachers to follow to first introduce and then practice specific skills with the students in their intervention groups. These instructional routines should be used when a new skill or concept is being introduced, modeled, and practiced. They should also be incorporated with the additional activities provided within the subfolder or with any classroom resources typically used to support this skill. The scope and sequence of skill progression described in the instruction column of the protocol, along with the instructional routines and supporting activities and resources provided through the links to the online folders, ensure that students will receive high-quality instruction that is replicable, easily accessible, and sustainable over time. Take a minute to review or jot down what you notice about the protocol for our MTSS Literacy Intervention resources, as well as the recommendation for intensifying from the supplemental level to the intensive level. Then partner up once again and take a minute to share what you have noticed. Pause or stop the video for approximately 2 to 3 minutes for this activity. You will probably notice that this protocol provides a recommended scope and sequence for providing phonological and phonemic awareness interventions. You will probably notice that this protocol provides a recommended scope and sequence for providing phonological and phonemic awareness interventions. Each specific skill is linked to a subfolder that includes one or more instructional routines, along with the supporting activities, games, or additional resources. You will notice that if a student's needs intensify support, the protocol recommends that a specified reading program should be used. Since many teachers in our district will choose to use the protocol from our MTSS Literacy Intervention resources, all staff, teachers, support staff, maybe even teacher assistants or tutors will need to. Since many teachers in our district will choose to use the protocol for our MTSS Literacy Intervention resources, all staff, such as teachers, support staff, teacher assistants, or tutors, that may provide supplemental or intensive support will need to receive this training in order to ensure implementation fidelity. Just like the protocols for specific reading programs, the protocol for the MTSS Literacy Intervention resources also states that prior training is required before implementation. You will notice that the instruction column recommends that the instructor use the instructional routines along with the supporting resources to explicitly teach and select and review the specific skills. This selection also describes the recommended scope and sequence or progression of teaching the targeted area of instruction. Each specific skill is linked to a subfolder that includes one or more instructional routines, along with the supporting activities, games, or additional resources. There are also links to diagnostic assessments that can be used to drive instructional decisions and guidelines for what progress monitoring tools to use and how often progress monitoring should occur. Furthermore, you will notice that if a student's data indicates he needs more than supplemental support, this intervention protocol recommends that one of the specific reading programs from our list of literacy intervention protocols be used at the intensive level. Each of the protocols for the MTSS Literacy Intervention resources was designed with the same format and provide a scope and sequence for instruction, whether it was developed for phonological and phonemic awareness, phonics and fluency, cut that off. Make sure it's off. Each of the protocols for the MTSS Literacy Intervention resources was designed with the same format and provide a scope and sequence for instruction, whether it was developed for